Seshashayee Murthy. I'm from the Halıcıoğlu Data Science Institute at the UC San Diego. And today Sanjay, the CEO of Vocareum, and I will share how we partnered to tackle a critical challenge in education. That's how to close knowledge gaps in math through AI-powered personalized instruction. The next chart.
Here you go. You want to take.
Okay. But before we dive into the details, I would like to start with a short video from Professor Rubalcaba.
Hi, I'm Dr. Rob Rubalcaba. I teach mathematics at San Diego City College and UCSD for Summer Bridge. I think this is the biggest challenge, is just having that big range of some students really having a good grasp on certain concepts, but other students not having a good grasp on others, and just like it just can feel really overwhelming for them, just because there's just a lot of different math concepts to work through. A lot of students come to college or university feeling that they don't belong in math, that they might be good in other subjects, but when it comes to math, a lot of them, depending on where they come from and depending on what their background is, or depending on what investments they've had or lack of investments that they've had in math instruction, they might come feeling really just not positive about their own math abilities. And even to the point where they would identify as, I'm just not a math person. Besides taking longer to graduate, they can just give up on education altogether, or change their major. They might be, hey, I want to be an engineer, and then they're working on this extra math that isn't even for credit, and then they're like, oh, you know what, forget that. I'm not going to be an engineer anymore. So that there's just real important consequences to not having students succeed in mathematics.
So what Professor Rubalcaba talked about was the problem that students come in with varied backgrounds, and you need to personalize how you're teaching them or how they learn, right? You're all familiar with the Bloom 2 Sigma paper. It presents an evidence-based approach to solving the problem of students coming in with varied backgrounds, okay? He showed two things. One is that one-on-one tutoring can improve the student performance by 2 standard deviations, right? You're all familiar with this. Equally interestingly, the lowest performing students in the one-on-one tutoring performed at the level as the median of the control group. So how do you replicate these benefits at scale with AI? So the paper, which is an evidence-based approach, you'll hear me talk about that a lot today, that essentially gives you the bare bones of what to do, but you need to fill that out. And so you need to build out an AI-based workflow, iterate on it, and go forward. That's what I'll talk about. So we started with the thesis that you need to rapidly assess where the students are and how to teach them exactly what they need to know. So this is an eye chart. I'm sorry, I didn't realize that the screen would be so small, but I'll try to talk about it as quickly as I can. So we're partnered with Vocareum to iterate on such evidence-based workflows and to scale them, right? We bring together educators, researchers, and institutional leaders in that center, and we identify key evidence-based practices to implement as AI-based workflows. We do that in Vocareum because Vocareum has got a highly scalable, available platform. And as the students and the teachers interact with it, we gather the data. And and then we iterate on that. We take a look at the data. We improve the implementation of the best practices that we have got out there. So what are these best practices? One of the charts is missing. Maybe it's here. Sorry. Yeah, no, it's here. I just couldn't read it. Apologize. So we have implemented 3 key evidence-based workflows out here. One is around personalized the mastery-based learning. The other one is to provide previewing concept before we get in front, students get in front of a class. And the third one is spaced repetition, which you all know about, which essentially helps to students to be able to learn things better. So actually, I want to go back. So we take such knowledge-based, we take such evidence-based processes, we implement them in the Vocareum platform, which is highly scalable and which is well suited for deploying these workflows, and then we iterate on them. And we do this in an open framework. And so that's what I want to talk to you about today. So let's just dive into a little more detail, and then I'll hand it over to Sanjay to talk about what we're doing there. So this is an example of automating the workflow around, no, this, my mistake. So this is what I want to talk about. So we have an AI-based workflow for personalized mastery-based learning. So the AI needs a triple of information. The first one is it needs a rich understanding of what the student needs to know. I'll call that the domain model. It needs to understand what the mastery level for each student is in that domain. And the third thing is that you need an understanding of what task the student wishes to accomplish. So we can use, for example, the homework assignment that the student wants to do as an example out there. And then you can personalize the path using that. So I won't go into detail, but essentially, if you take those three into account, you can do it. Now, what we learned is that there is this, what we call as a cold start problem in recommender systems. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that. Essentially, before this, you have taken the student through every single concept, you don't know what they know and don't know. And students are not willing to spend the time to do that. So what we're doing now is we're iterating on that to improve the way that we are diagnosing what the students know. I told you about the domain model, where it anchors the course curriculum. It's essentially a directed acyclic graph that lists out what the concepts are and how they work, how they're related to each other. You've got links to the curriculum in there, and you can read the rest of it. We gather we capture the digital twin, which is the status of what the student knows about each individual concept. And that's possible to do at scale only with a platform like Vocareum. And we have built out other workflows using AI agents. So for example, we have built out a workflow to build the domain model itself, right? You remember how difficult it used to be to build something like a domain model. It could take a faculty member a semester. Now the AI can, in about 30 minutes, shoot out a first version that's about 85% right, and then you improve it. And then you can also create the formative assessments associated with that, all in Vocareum. Then we assess what the students know and don't know, and build out the student model. And then we have an insights portal where the educators can look at the classes of students to see what's being done in there. So essentially what we have AI-powered workflows that are grounded in evidence-based practices. And we are using these currently to create personalized mastery-based learning, starting with math. And we're improving this iteratively. With that, I'll hand it over to Sanjay, who will talk about the Vocareum platform and the clicker. Okay. And how it makes that possible.
Yeah, thanks, Ash. Can I just do a time check because of the lights? I can't see someone's signal. I can't.
We got 10:17 into the talk.
So, sorry, I can't.
8 minutes left.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. So, thanks. What I will do, as Sash mentioned, just really quickly give you a perspective of, from Vocareum. How many of you are familiar with Vocareum, first of all? Can I get a show of hands? Okay, perfect. So what I would do is I would give you, okay, you two are, because you work for Vocareum, thank you. So just a little bit about Vocareum. We have been around for over 10 years. We are in the business of, we started with a mission being that we wanted to bring cloud resources to the classroom. So the whole thesis was that if the students have access to the latest, greatest cloud resources, in the context of learning, then it will help them with their, be more job ready. And we have about 4 million learners, about 7,000 universities which are using our, globally, which are using our platform, and then about 10 major ed tech platforms. So cloud, just product-wise, Cloud Lab, these are, if you're learning data science, cybersecurity, cloud computing, often you're using our labs. But then, just like everyone else, a couple of years ago, we added AI. And for us, adding AI meant adding AI sandboxes, so when you need to learn how to use AI, but then what also, you build a whole set of AI agents. But the culmination of all that, the AI, is actually in this partnership with UCSD. And what I would do at this point, actually go to the, give you a sense of the demo, but this is the partnership with UCSD, and as Sesh mentioned, just to repeat that, we are very excited about that as an ed tech platform. We are not just bringing you something and then we are getting feedback and then iterating. There is actually a pretty tight feedback loop built in between research, education, and ed tech. So with that, let me just give you...
Hello, my name is Portia Vestuccia, and I'm a product manager for Vocareum. Prior to joining the team, I worked for UC San Diego's Teaching and Learning Commons, where I was responsible for mathematics supplemental instruction and helped design the first iteration of this project for UC San Diego's summer bridge course, Accelerate Calculus. Let's take a closer look at the platform. Here we can see what an assignment might look like for students. So here we have the question and the virtual tutor on the left. Now let's say that the student needs a bit more help on this question. One of the things that they can do is click Get Hint. This shows a first step that is verified by an instructor but pre-generated. If a student needs more help, they might want to click Get Help. This then shows a response from the virtual tutor based on a prompt that the instructor can configure. In this case, the prompt was, please provide a brief explanation of the concept in question without giving the user the answer. Then prompt the student to ask any follow-up questions. That way the student doesn't just look for the right answer and click it, they read through and they hopefully achieve some clarification on their misconceptions. It also then encourages the students to ask follow-up questions, just like it's configured. Now let's say that I do have a follow-up question that's a bit more specific. I can put it down here in the chat box. So let's say I want to ask, does it matter that it's m of t and not f of x? Here the virtual tutor replies, absolutely not. These are just dummy variables. The names don't affect the function's evaluation. And then I can, again, it's encouraging me to ask more questions. Now let's say that the student is maybe an English language learner, wants to double check their understanding. They can ask something like, translate your last response to Spanish. And we can see that the virtual tutor is able to do that as well. If the student has questions on any of these, they're able to click Create Thread and then discuss it with their peers and instructor in our built-in forum here. If a student is struggling, they don't even know where to begin to ask a question, we also have the ability to view suggested responses to ask the virtual tutor to give students a starting point. So with all that, let's say that I have my answer and I click Submit. Over here on the left, I can see that I was correct and why. It gives me an explanation as well so that I can double check my thought process, whether I'm correct or not. If I were incorrect, this response would be reconfigured and explain something like why I got it wrong. For example, maybe you added 7 instead of subtracted, or another common mistake that students may make. From here, let's go ahead and look at the full question list. Here you can notice that I can retry any of the questions, including questions that I got incorrect, in order to really work to achieve 100% mastery and improve on my understanding. You'll notice that I'm at 40% right now. Once I reach this bar, I will unlock the next concepts. So let's take a look at our domain progress. Here we can see that we've achieved mastery in these 2 concepts here, and we're currently working on this one. Once I reach this bar, I'll unlock these last 2 concepts. Once I reach 100% mastery, I'll make sure that this concept is green. So this is what a student sees, their own personal path through all of the concepts in this assignment, and then also in the entire course. What an instructor sees is a little bit different. Before I show you all that, I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Rob, who's going to talk about the evolution of this project and why this personalization via the virtual tutor is so important.
Well, one thing I can say about the development of this project is at every stage, at every page, at every turn, this product has been centered at student success. I've seen that on every meeting we've had and every iteration of the software, and I've just seen it really centered around student success, which I absolutely love. How can this help students? The individualization is really the key, and it's there to not just be not just to do the math. It doesn't do the math for them. What does it do? It really supports them in unique ways that I'm not able to support them, that I don't have time to go around and individualize to each and every student. This product really does a good job of talking to a student in their language and the way that they are approaching the problem.
Now let's take a look at what an instructor might see for a class. The instructor sees the average class's performance throughout all of the concepts. So right here in the middle, determine whether a relation represents a function. The instructor can see that on average, the class is at an intermediate level of mastery. Whereas right below that, for language of functions, the class on average has achieved mastery in this concept. Over here on the left, the instructor can also see an overall summary of what is contained in the concept, as well as where each individual student is at. So how many students haven't started, are beginning, intermediate, or have reached full mastery. If we scroll down, we can also see some bullet points for areas of improvement and strengths of the entire class. This is AI summarized information based on student performance, questions that students have asked the LLM, and more, that provides some insight for the instructor at a glance on what students are struggling with and what their strengths are. If we go up to the top right, we can also see the gradebook. This is where instructors can see a disaggregated view of students, as well as assignments, concepts, and questions, including insights on AI usage. I'm going to pass it back to Dr. Rob one last time to talk about this view and how it can impact teaching and learning. Thank you all so much.
This is a game changer. I mean, looking at that just that at a glance summary, I'm like, wow, I can. That's a game changer. Like walking into class and you know, this is the kind of information that you get like after students take a test or after you take an assessment. Then you're like, okay, now I really understand where my students are. Imagine if you had that knowledge walking into every classroom or even in the middle of your class. Like that's really the powerful part, is that I can now have an at a glance summary of my whole class at any time during the entire semester or quarter. That's really powerful. Instead of just knowing it during those assessment periods, I now know, you know, how many students are still struggling with certain concepts, or how many have started certain things, or like that glance is just super useful, and I think it's going to be a game changer for education.
And hit the clock at 0. It's perfect timing. Yeah. Yeah. Well. Thank you, everyone. I guess we'll be around for any, I know our time is up, so we will be around in the hallways for questions. We also have we're there at the booth, 232. Please stop by. We can discuss more. Hopefully you'll get involved. Thank you.